In this video, I'm going to walk you through assignment 5.2.A on Workplanes. So I'm going to begin by creating a new part. And you notice that when I do, I get these here in your browser. There's a series of planes and axes, and let me explain those to you. This is your center point, so that's the center point of your universe. It's a single point. And then going through that point are various lines. We call them axes. There's an x-axis, a y-axis, and a z-axis. The z-axis appears as a point because the z-axis is coming straight out at you. So if I look at it in isometric, there is the z-axis, and it's coming straight out at you. So I'm going to look at it from front again. So I have, once again, I have my x-axis. And you notice it corresponds to the little arrows here. This is your x-axis, your y-axis. Here's your y pointing straight up. And then your z is pointing right at you. And so there's my z-axis pointing straight out at me. And it's represented here by a little dot. And once again, if I just zoom around, you notice that here's the z-axis. And there it is right there. So, X, Y, Z. Those are my three axes. Now, there are also, when you have two lines, it defines a plane. So if I point to my X and Y axis, those of you who've taken geometry understand that. There's the X and Y axis. And they define a plane. There's the X and Y plane, X axis, y-axis, and the xy plane. So the two axes are located on a plane, and in fact they define a plane. So if I look at next I have, let me look at the xz plane, pointing to the xz plane. Notice that the x-axis and the y-axis the x-axis and the z-axis lie on the xz plane, and so forth. So on the yz plane, there is the y-axis and the z-axis. So I'm holding the control key down while I point to these. So those are my three planes. But sometimes you're going to want to create a plane for a particular purpose, a plane other than these three planes. So we're going to create a new part and a new sketch. So I'm going to create a sketch. And you notice that these planes show up again. Okay, I've never explained them to you what they are, but that's what they are. And the axes are there also. And I've always told you create a sketch on the XY plane, and that's just out of habit. It's in geometry, algebra, that is the most frequently used plane, the XY plane, so we point to it. We're going to create a circle at the origin, and notice here, the origin, when I talk about the origin, is actually the center point. So I'm going to point to the center point, the origin. I'm going to type in 2, making a 2-inch diameter circle. I'm going to use a new command. It's called a rectangle with a center point. Choose that. I'm going to point here, right here at the intersection of the axis and the circle, and then I'm going to just draw a rectangle approximately like that. Take it to the origin, and then I'm going to do the same here. Draw a rectangle, take it to the origin. I'm going to use my constraints. I'm going to make this line equal to this line, and then I'm ready. I can hit the checkbox, and I have my profiles, and I'm ready to extrude. And I'll extrude out the figure that's shown in the exercise. So I'm going to extrude. I'm going to choose profiles. I'm choosing this profile, this one, and this one. I'm going to go in the opposite direction because I want to continue to see my center point. It's right there. Just for demonstration purposes, I want to keep my center point in the front. And I'm going to go out. Let's make it 2 inches also. And hit OK. And there's what's shown in the PowerPoint slide set, this part here. So I'm going to create a new, walk you through the different planes that are created in the slide set. So here's the slide set. They walk you through how to create a plane, and one of the first ones they discuss is an offsetting a work plane, an offset work plane. So the planes are located here. I'm going to select an offset from plane. I'm going to point to the surface that I want to create offset from. So I'm going to select this surface, and I want a work plane not on this surface but a little distance in. So I want it in minus 1.75 inches, and let's make it 1.5 inches. And I hit the checkbox, and now you notice I have a work plane. It's parallel to my XY plane, but it's offset from the face, from the XY plane, by 1.5 inches. So I'm going to create a sketch on that plane. I choose create a sketch, and I'm going to point, I have to point to the corner, the edge of the work plane. And now I'm in sketch mode, and I could create a sketch on that plane. But notice I can't see it because the mass of this part is in my way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this little icon down here. See it down here, Slice Graphics. I click on it, and now it cuts away the portion of the part that is in front of the plane, and you could actually see the axis and the work plane and the surface where you could sketch. So I'm going to create a rectangle, a centered rectangle. Once again, I'm going to go like this and try to make it approximately a square. And I'm going to say, use the equal again. I'm going to say that that is equal to that. And then hit the checkbox. And now I'm going to extrude, and I'm going to go in the opposite direction. Okay, and I'm going to go to just a 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to say OK. And my new features are there, but the work plane is keeping me from seeing them. So I'm going to right click on that work plane, and then I'm going to check off this little check, the visibility check, and now my work plane is still there, but it's just hidden, and you can see my new features, and the new features are located on all sides of the part. So going on to the slide set, so they talk about creating work planes at an angle. You may want to take a look at that. An angled work plane. Try that yourself. One other type that they mention is this angled work plane, this plane here, through 2 lines, through 2 edges. I'm going to show you that. So you come back through 2 coplanar edges. So I'm going to point to this edge and this edge, and you notice that there's a work plane there on that that's defined by those 2 edges that I just pointed to. So now I'm going to create a sketch on that new plane I just created. Notice that the work plane shows up here as work plane 2. So I'm going to point to the edge of it, and now I can sketch on it. So I'm going to create a circle and just a little hole, and hit the checkbox. So you're saying, well, why would I want to do that? Well, I want to drill a hole through the part at an angle, and this is the easiest way. I couldn't create a sketch on this surface because it's a cylindrical surface. So this is one way of creating a sketch plane to drill an angled hole like that. So I'm going to go ahead and extrude. I'm going to remove material, and I'm going to go, let's go the full distance. I want to go all the way through the part. It doesn't know that the part is there, so I can't use all the way through because it doesn't see the part. It doesn't know it's there. And so I'm just going to define it as 3 inches. And if I use 3 inches, it should go all the way through, and it does. And I'm removing material, so I hit OK. At this point, we're going to hide the visibility of the work plane. Right mouse button and turn off the visibility. Let's save the part. Call it 5.2 Workplanes. Create a new drawing. Place your base view. Set the scale to 2:1. Select the ISO view. Turn Shaded on and set the scale to 1:1. Place the ISO view in the corner. Select Annotate, select Dimension. Dimension the depth, the overall height, and the overall width. Dimension this radius. Select iProperties. Copy the file name, Control-C, open the Summary tab, and paste it over the title. It should be 5.2 Workplanes. Change the author to your name. Go to File, Export to PDF, and submit the PDF drawing to Canvas to complete your assignment.